So they asked Edward Snowden if he thinks he's a traitor or a patriot. And he said yes, he thought he was a patriot because, according to him, what a patriot does. So here's what Edward Snowden, I don't have the clip, but I'll read it to you what he said. He said, I think a patriot is a word that's thrown around so much that it can be devalued nowadays. Being a patriot doesn't mean prioritizing service to government above all else. Being a patriot means knowing when to protect your country, knowing when to protect your Constitution, knowing when to protect your countrymen from the violations of and encroachments of adversaries, and those adversaries don't have to be foreign countries. So
That
he
sounds like a reasonable talking point to me.
sounds like he was. Who could disagree with that? That's exactly
Right.
what a patriot is. A patriot swears allegiance to the Constitution and to protect the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. So, domestic meaning people who are trampling on the Constitution while employed by the government. That doesn't mean that they are the government. That means that they're employed by the government, right? So, I agree. I could not agree more. A patriot does not prioritize service to the government above all else. Being a patriot means knowing when to protect your country, when to protect your Constitution, and when to protect your countrymen. That is such a great definition of what a patriot is. I like this guy. I like Edward Snowden. I like everything he did. I like that he risked. So he gave himself that description. John Kerry went on CBS this morning. Charlie Rose is on that show, by the way, because apparently he's trying to win the biggest bags under my eyes contest that I've ever seen. And Charlie, take a break. Take a nap. You don't have to work all the time. And so here's what. So they had on John Kerry on the CBS, and here's what John Kerry had to say about Edward Snowden calling himself a patriot.
The bottom line is, this is a man who has betrayed his country, who is sitting in Russia, an authoritarian country, where he has taken refuge. He should man up and come back to the United States. If he has a complaint about what's the matter with American surveillance, come back here and stand in our system of justice and make his case. But
So why do you think Edward Snowden would not come back to America and make his case in our side? I don't know. You mean he wants to? I don't know. Maybe because you tortured Bradley Manning for a year before you ever took him to trial. Maybe you torture Jose Padilla. You torture Bradley Manning, who's now Chelsea Manning. You torture. This is how you treat people who you consider terrorists. So you were going to torture him. And maybe that's why, because he exposed you guys for being criminals. And now what you want him to do is then throw himself on the mercy of the criminals he's exposing inside of the criminal organization that he's exposing for being a criminal organization. Guys who have already admitted to using torture on their own prisoners. And you want him to man up. Well, I say to you, John Kerry, how about you man up for once in your goddamn life? And you man up, and why don't you prosecute 4 or 5 war criminals that I know of right now living in the United States who have been giving commencement speeches all over the goddamn country. You know, like Condoleezza Rice and Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney and George Bush. You know, the people who go on Sunday afternoon talk shows in America and brag about ordering war crimes. Why don't you man up and prosecute one of those war criminals who are self-admitted, who live right here freely inside the United States? Why don't you man up and do that? But no, you want this guy who did a service to our democracy, you want him to man up and come back here to get tortured and be prosecuted unfairly. Because he wouldn't be able to give a defense, because they would say everything he wanted to use as his defense is classified. So he wouldn't be able to have a defense, which is another reason why he's not coming back here, which is another reason why John Kerry is full of it. And I can't believe I burned my T-shirt, by the way. I used to love wearing my John Kerry 2004 T-shirt, and I don't even wear it to bed anymore. I burned it. It's all over.
Well, if you wanna talk about manning up, the journalist Mark Crispin Miller, I think I'm getting his name right, wrote about how how the Bush people basically stole Ohio in 2004, and that's why John Kerry didn't win. John Kerry saw him at a party and totally agreed with what he was saying. And then later on television, he denied it and said, no, the election wasn't stolen. So that's the kind of manning up that John Kerry is known for doing. And also, he talks about...
You can't go against your skull and crossbones, brother.
Yeah.
He's also talking about... one thing that really got me was he mentioned, he's living in Russia, an authoritarian regime. Okay, yes, it is authoritarian, but you, John Kerry, as Secretary of State, negotiate and do business with them all the time. So it's just very disingenuous for him to mention that they're authoritarian, whereas they are actually a country that America recognizes and that America does business with.
And during that interview, Snowden was criticizing the Russian government while in Russia. That in itself is braver than anything that Jeffrey Toobin has ever done. All of Edward Snowden's critics, and also
right.
Jimmy. I mean, you got it so wrong. I mean, revealing that the government is violating the Fourth Amendment is much, much worse than sending hundreds of thousands to their death in a war based on a lie.